Out front now, Democratic Congresswoman Jackie Speier, who introduced that resolution to censor Gosar. So what do you say to Kevin McCarthy and other Republicans who are standing behind Gosar? You heard McCarthy's reasoning that Gosar removed it, and he says didn't know it was up, even though, of course, Gosar has defended why he did it.
Well, first of all, there was radio silence from Kevin McCarthy and Republicans for days after Mr. Gosar actually posted that venomous anime. And tacit support is equated to silence. As the issue got hotter and hotter, as the resolution got introduced, they then just took it down. Now, subsequently, he has said publicly that he is not apologizing. He then said that he does not support violence. Well, then why would you do something like that that shows you killing a colleague in the House of Representatives and attempting to do so with the President of the United States? It crossed the line, Erin, and that's why I felt so strongly about introducing the resolution. We cannot allow members of Congress to promote violence against other members of Congress.
Now, you know, there's part of your life is very relevant here, okay? You know, you said about Gosar, you know, he's promoting the killing of a seated member of Congress. And you know the reality of that danger personally, right? You were there on January 6th, but I'm not even talking about that. You know, 43 years ago on this Thursday, you survived the Jonestown massacre. You were there. More than 900 people led into a murder-suicide by the cult leader Jim Jones. You were a congressional staffer at the time. You traveled to the compound to try to help the followers, along with your boss and mentor, Congressman Leo Ryan. And you were shot 5 times. You were left for dead on the tarmac, 22 hours until help arrived. Congressman Ryan was killed, shot 45 times. 3 journalists and a cult defector, all killed. It's unbelievable to even have to say these things. But this comes into it. You know, what does it mean to you when you hear a threat against the life of a fellow congressman coming from within Congress?
Well, it's chilling. And that's why it's so important for us to draw that red line to prevent this kind of conduct moving forward. Now, mind you, Mr. Gosar then actually sent out to supporters a subsequent email in which he chastised the resolution for being shrill and filled with invective. The resolution just pointed out what his conduct was. So there's no remorse, there's no apology, and I fear that if we don't shut this kind of conduct down, someone's going to get hurt severely. And I just don't want to see that happen. And the House has become so filled with charged language, even members in the Republican side challenging other members on the Republican side for having voted for an infrastructure bill to benefit their districts. It really is out of hand.
And, you know, you announced today that you're retiring from Congress. You're the 15th Democrat Congresswoman to announce that you're not going to run for re-election. You know, this is something obviously that comes from deep within a decision you've made. But does the threat from Congressman Gosar, the tone of Washington right now, have anything to do with your decision?
Well, it certainly doesn't promote me wanting to stay here, but the decision was really made on very personal reasons because I've been in public life now for 39 years. It's time to pass the torch to a new generation. I have a spouse at home who's put up with a weekend wife for 20 years, and he's now retired and wants us to spend some time together and with our family and friends. So it's time for me to go home. Doesn't mean I won't be part of the community or active publicly on issues that I care about. Yeah. I still am very committed to the work that I've done here in Congress and in the state legislature in California.
You know, you have gone through so much in your life, and I know you have the great joy of your husband and your children. You know, I mentioned Jonestown, which is incomprehensible to so many to imagine, the loss of your mentor. You were married before, and your husband died in a car crash. At the time, you were pregnant with your daughter, and you'd struggled so hard to have that pregnancy, I know. At that one point, you and your husband had tried to adopt a child. The birth mother changed her mind at the last moment. People hear all these things and they say, how could anybody endure all this? How could anybody get through this? I mean, it truly is incredible. And you survived. You continued to help others. You have dedicated your life to public service. What do you say to people now about how they too can persevere, and why people should still believe in public service at a time when, frankly, a lot of people view it with disgust?
Well, that's in part why it's so important to shut down the kind of conduct that Mr. Gosar was engaging in. But I will say, I wrote my memoir a couple of years ago called Undaunted, and I really wrote it for a generation of young people to realize they could overcome virtually anything. I've had lots of ups and downs in my life. I must say that it has been such a privilege to serve the people in my district and in California and across the country. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
Congresswoman, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erin.